GMs are out, and with that, I wanted to go over what is hands down one of the best GM builds that has ever existed. This week's GM is the Lightblade, which also happens to have Void Singe, so we're going to be able to synergize this with the build for 25% increased damage across the board. But even in any different GM with different surges, I still think this is overall the best build to bring in. You have an infinite cycle of invisibility, which is going to come in clutch when getting off revives for your team. You also gain access to Devour, allowing you to play extremely aggressive and get kills to fully recover your health in any sketchy situation. Plus, there are a bunch of different ways to debuff enemies and champions, like our grenades, our melee ability, and even our super. In this video, I'm going to be going over the full build, including our exotic, weapons, subclass setup, and the mods we're using. There's also going to be a full dim link in the description down below, so you guys can easily just apply this build in one click. But with that, we are super close to 75,000 subs on the channel, so if you guys do enjoy the build, make sure to drop a quick like and sub down below. Okay, starting with our exotic first, we're going to be pairing this build with Aeon Swifts, which are the exotic gauntlets on Hunter. Also, make sure you're absolutely running the Sect of Insight mod. This comes with 3 different mods because there's like 3 different playstyles. There's Vigor and there's also Force, but you want to absolutely make sure you're running Sect of Insight, because with this, when we finish things like champions and mini bosses, which there's a ton of in GMs, we're generating heavy ammo for our teammates each and every time without fail. Weapon-wise, you can always change things up, and I do recommend that you change things up depending on the GM you're running. This week, there was Arc and then Void Singe, so running something like Funnel Web as my main primary weapon just for some general ad clear felt amazing, and this is really useful when using something like Devour, so we can quickly keep getting kills for a refresh in our full health and shields, and then also grenade energy. And then with that, with Arc Burn, or Arc Surges, I also liked running the Hothead with Explosive Light and then Auto-Loading Holster. I think Auto-Loading Holster and then Damage perk is perfect for taking out champions because you can quickly pull it out, shoot a rocket to do some burst damage, and then go to something like Arbalest to do the remainder of the champion's health until you go into that finisher. Looking over at the Void subclass layout first, we're going to be running Mobius Quiver as our super. Really, you just want this for damage against champions and then mini bosses as well, or even the boss for a GM. There's no exotic that we're really pairing to make this better, so I think this is the best option to run for that quick burst damage, because we don't really need Deadfall or anything else for ad clear. Depending on your playstyle, you can switch between Marksman and Gambler's Dodge. I like running Gambler's Dodge so that I can dodge near enemies to get my melee back, and the reason for this is because we are using the Snare Bomb, which by default is going to apply weaken to enemies. So I can easily use this on a champion, dodge to get it straight back, and then use it on another champion, or just use it on like a boss to keep extending that weaken effect so that we're dealing 15% more damage to that enemy. For the exact same reason, our grenades are also going to be weakening enemies, so I like to pair this build with Vortex Grenade. This is just, in my opinion, the easiest one to use to consistently weaken enemies and not have really any trouble with it. So all in all, with this, and then essentially 2 copies of our Snare Bomb through Gambler's Dodge, we have 3 very simple ways to weaken different enemies. For our first aspect, we are running Trapper's Ambush. Anytime we're in the air, we can use our in-air dodge move to quick fall to the ground, essentially releasing a smoke cloud when we do that. It will consume our melee charge and weaken everything nearby, along with apply invis to ourself and teammates. The nice part about this is our Snare Bomb or Smoke Bomb, whatever you want to call it, also gets native invis as well. So even if you don't do the quick fall and you just chuck this down, you're also getting invis through that now too. After this is our second aspect, which is Vanishing Step. It's super simple, but it's super useful, which is allowing our dodges to also now apply invis to ourself. This is fantastic for getting out of sketchy situations or just popping invis to go and get a revive. Fragment-wise, Echo of Undermining allows our grenades to actually apply weaken, so you do need this on to use this as a 15% debuff. Echo of Obscurity is amazing for this build as well. As you're going to see later in the video or in some of the background gameplay, doing finishers happens a lot with this build because we're using Aeons to generate heavy ammo and then Special Finisher to generate special ammo. Since we're doing finishers a lot, this means every time we do a finisher on any enemy type, we're going straight into invis, allowing us to quickly and safely get away. Echo of Persistence is used simply so that invisibility and Devour effects that we have applied to us last slightly longer, allowing them to be a little bit more versatile in endgame content. And then very lastly, we are running, as always, Echo Up Starvation. Picking up a Void Breach or even an Orb of Power will proc Devour. In that mode, we have a timer, and then anytime we get a kill with that timer still active, we're getting full health and full shields, a little bit of grenade energy, which scales based on the enemy type or tier that we're killing. So tankier enemies give more grenade energy. And then after that, our timer is also getting extended per kill. All the mods I run with this build are on screen now if you guys want to pause and apply yourself, or you can always just click the dim link in the description below. I'm going to go over everything in detail and then how it fits specifically into this build. On our helmet, we do have heavy ammo scout and heavy ammo finder, so that as I'm getting primary kills, I have a very high chance to spawn in heavy bricks for my teammates. That's another reason that I'm using something like funnel web or just in general a primary for ad clear in this build, so that I'm generating ammo for myself and teammates as often as I can. And then with this, obviously just make sure you cycle your siphon mod to whatever element type you're running for this build. Obviously I had funnel web on, so I was running void siphon here. On our gauntlets, we are running firepower so that grenade final blows create orbs of power. We get a ton of grenades through Devour with this build, so that makes a lot of sense for just making orbs of power consistently for ourselves and teammates. Likewise, because we have a lot of grenades and deal a lot of grenade damage, we have momentum transfer to scale up how much energy we get back as we're dealing damage with those grenades for our melee ability. Fastball is obviously just a quality of life change to throw our grenade farther, allowing us to apply weaken from a more safe area against like champions. And then obviously, in case you missed it, make sure you're absolutely running Sective Insight on your Aeons. For your chest piece, it's always best to just run 3 copies of damage resistance mods. This week was Arc Burn, so I had 2 copies of Arc Burn. I also didn't have a 3rd copy because elemental ones only stack up 2 times rather than 3 compared to all the other ones. So if you are going with 2 elemental versions, make sure you just throw on something like Concussive Dampener or Sniper Resist or Melee Resist, because 3 of these types will never stack. On our boots, for even more energy back to our abilities on orb pickup, we have Innervation for grenade energy, and then Invigoration for melee energy. We don't need any healing here because Orbs of Power will give us full health and full shields because it always procs Devour. And then with this, I do also have Stacks on Stacks to increase the amount of armor charge stack gains I get by 1 every time I collect an Orb of Power. Lastly, on my class item, a bunch of these mods are super clutch for this build specifically. Proximity War gives us a ton of health. It gives us a really tanky overshield, and that overshield offers 50% damage resistance anytime we finish an enemy. So even though Invis doesn't proc until after that finisher goes away, this pretty much makes it impossible for us to die in that finisher animation. Likewise, Powerful Attraction is really nice because we're using our dodge a lot to get our melee back and proc invis, which means anytime we do use our class ability, we're collecting all the orbs of power nearby, giving us more armor charge stacks and other additional benefits like innervation and invigoration. And then with those armor charge stacks, that feeds directly into special finisher. Once we have 3 of those stacks and we're capped out, we can do a finisher to generate heavy ammo through Aeons, and now special ammo for our team and ourselves through special finisher. That is it for the build. When running GMs, we did also pair this with a Strand Hunter, but honestly, Strand with the Shaco grenades on any class works amazing. Being able to stun basically all champion types for free with a single ability is insanely strong, and when paired with infinite ammo to bake champs that this build offers, you can fly through GMs with ease. Let me know your thoughts on the build in the comments down below, and if you guys want to see more GM builds this season. As always, have a good one, guys. Peace.